Well, good morning. My name's Richard Palmer. I'm the Managing Director of Willisbrook Orchards, but I'm actually a Kiwi married to an Aussie living in Athens, overseeing a farming business in New Zealand. And if you want to know more, happy to take questions about that afterwards. Today, I'm going to talk about how producers sustain value, a little bit about Willisbrook Orchards, our family business, and then a little bit of history of the kiwifruit industry in New Zealand, and then a number of things that make up the success of that sector. I'm going to talk about the work of inspiring farmers in a generation before me, and some of those people will become apparent in due course. So Willisbrook Orchards, my family's been farming here since the 1840s. It was interesting yesterday, somebody talking about their farm, barley, sheep, vegetables, and it took me back to my childhood. So we started out farming sheep and cattle. We've been farming hops for a long time. We don't farm hops on our current farm, but my brother farms hops still. But as a kid, we grew vegetables. We had barley, sheep, and we're never going back to sheep, to tobacco, and then to fruit. And nowadays, we're 45 hectares of apples, producing about 50% above the New Zealand average yield. We think we're quite good at that. 12 hectares of kiwifruit. We're only average kiwifruit growers, and we grow some wine grapes as well, just as a producer, not a winemaker. The history of the New Zealand kiwifruit industry: in 1904, the first seeds were brought to New Zealand, and in 1959, Jack Turner of Turners and Growers, of some of whom will know, coined the name kiwifruit. Of course, it came from China and it was known as Chinese gooseberry, and I was interested in talking to someone last night who didn't actually know that, so lock that away for your pub quiz in future. Through the 70s, the industry grew quite quickly, but it was multiple exporters, and in 1976, a UK buyer even wrote to the New Zealand Minister of Agriculture expressing frustration that the present disorganised grower-exporter agent model will, in the long run, turn the grower's investment into a high-risk nightmare. And that was quite a prescient comment from the time. Growers wanted to organise, and finally in 1977, the regulation enabled the licensing of exporters and the setting of standards. But from 1981 to 87, production increased tenfold, and in 1987, prices dropped again due to those importers trading off against New Zealand exporters on price. So in 1988, growers funded a review of the industry, and the preeminent option from that was a single desk marketer. However, marketers again promised in 1988 the crop would be sold well, but that didn't happen. And then with strong grower leadership, in 1988, the Kiwifruit Marketing Board was established, backed by an astonishing 84% of growers at the time. This was despite the 1980s, and many of you will know the New Zealand story being a time of absolute deregulation, the loss of set minimum prices, a whole lot of things. To establish that at that time was quite an astonishing achievement. In 1992, however, the Kiwifruit Marketing Board had a disastrous season. They ended the season $94 million in debt, and a report was commissioned by a sizable group of the grower base highlighting the shortcomings of the Kiwifruit Marketing Board. It nearly all went wrong. In 1992, after that disaster became apparent, or as it became apparent, my father, so one of those inspiring farmers, my father John, became the Kiwifruit Marketing Board chairman, and he challenged the bankers, firstly, to find a future for the industry, which was quite a challenge at the time. The Kiwifruit Marketing Board secured their funding, and they set about restoring confidence through improved grower returns in '93. Crucially, growers got behind the Marketing Board, who adapted quickly to valid criticisms, and with strong grower leadership from the Marketing Board and the Fruit Growers Federation, that could work with bankers and with government particularly to articulate grower expectations. They managed to achieve the finance and got very strong backing from government, both at the political and at the agency level. So over the next 2 seasons, the Kiwifruit Marketing Board paid all its debts, and it established itself through targeted restructuring as a valued marketer. Then in 1997, it established the Zespri brand, And I remember at the time it was quite controversial. Everybody said, what does Zespri stand for? It didn't actually stand for anything. It was a global search for a brand, and of course many of you will know it today. And finally in 1999, the Kiwifruit Marketing Board was commercialised as Zespri International, which now has all the commercial functions as a single desk marketer. That organisation continues today. So, what's been crucial to Zespri's success? It keeps producers at the heart. The ownership by growers, for growers, but managed by professionals. The grower return is at the heart of the business, creating value for growers and their communities. That value today means orchard values over $1 million New Zealand dollars a hectare, £430,000. Most crucially, Zespri is a marketing business run by marketing and logistics professionals, not growers, but supported by a board that comprises growers, an industry advisory council and an industry support group. It controls product into the market as far as possible, partnering rather than selling so that it retains ownership to wholesale and retail. Undoubtedly, having a corporate structure that drives efficiency and profitability as well as looking into the future has been key to its contemporary success. Growers are shareholders in Zespri, so their incentives align with the long-term brand value, not just the short-term return. Quality, consistency and sustainability are rewarded, and production decisions are coordinated, notwithstanding the individual choice available to growers. It keeps producers at the heart, and the result is about what growers want and need and how that value is created by the market. And that view is aligned so that the returns or the costs associated with losses or poor quality are attributed to growers. Now that sounds really easy. It sounds like it's been incredibly successful. Make no mistake that keeping growers assured about the model and understanding the model and the importance of it continues to be a big challenge. Zespri is well supported by Kiwifruit Growers Incorporated, a grower organisation that holds Zespri to account, and also Kiwifruit Vine Health, who looks after biosecurity after a PSA, a vine-killing disease, struck 15 years ago. It's dedicated to quality. The consumer's at the heart of the decisions about the crop because that's where the value comes from. And this was recognised as a key strength in establishing the single desk. We don't always get it right, and in fact in COVID, when we couldn't have all of the on-orchard monitoring mechanisms, it would be fair to say that the true colours of many growers came through, and we were perhaps lucky to get away with that. It's underpinned by strong systems at the orchard level and the packhouse and through the supply chain. It's a very efficient supply chain, it's integrated, it's aligned, it's demand-driven, and it's very disciplined, but it's supported by extensive data and monitoring of the crop, and I'll talk about that in a minute as well. One of the strengths is that the industry has been able to look ahead and focus on R&D, and in 2010, when that vine disease PSA struck and wiped out what was the then gold kiwifruit crop, Sun Gold was just emerging and was able to be rapidly planted to replace that prior gold. Orchard values, which had been around $275,000 a hectare, dropped to less than $100 at the height of the PSA crisis, and are now, as I say, over $1 million, and in some cases $1.5 million per hectare. Zespri spends about $40 million a year on innovation, half of that on breeding, and it does something like 30,000 to 40,000 crosses in their variety breeding program alone. Key to the customer penetration, though, has been the investment in brand, and they spend about 3% of revenue, $150 million a year, on the brand investment. And as I mentioned, the IT systems to monitor what's happening in the supply chain, what's happening with the fruit, have been critical as well. The current system, about $150 million is spent on IT. Lastly, it's been sufficiently well capitalised to invest in the brand, to invest in the future, and to enable the reward not to all be retained as capital, but to be returned to growers as a dividend. Maintains and grows its social capital as well, and Zespri sponsors AIMS Games, which is actually the biggest junior sporting event in the Southern Hemisphere, more participants than the Paris Olympics. So, these simple but well executed steps have created an iconic fruit brand. And there you can see the United Kingdom's High Commissioner to New Zealand at Zespri's headquarters in Mount Maunganui with the Zespri brothers, which I hope some of you have seen, who have been a bit of a worldwide sensation in supporting that brand. In 2024, Zespri was ranked as the #1 fruit brand globally. That's not a bad start from an industry that in '92 was broke and nearly disappeared. It now has the year-round supply of this delicious, healthy, nutritious snack, and I encourage you, someone last night said they hadn't seen gold kiwi fruit here. If you haven't tried it, do get out and buy it. 2 of those a day, very, very good for you. Thank you very much.